next presentation is open source solutions for prison libraries. This is from Bob Bennhoff. So Bob, take it away.
A few things that I'm going to cover today: why prison libraries deserve attention. It's not that I don't think that people think they're not worthy of attention. I think what happens is it's pretty easy to forget that they're there, forget that there are a lot of patrons in those libraries. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And most of this is going to be about some of the unique challenges in the prison environment and some of the solutions that we've found with using open source software, Koha and Aspen specifically, and then some of the ongoing challenges we're facing. So a little bit about AspenCat, which is what we call our consortia. It's in Colorado. It really mixes everything. This map up here has all the different locations of the libraries within the state, and there's 159 total, and public school, academic, special, and prison are included in that. And at least on the non-prison side of things, everybody's pretty much got their own setup, which is administratively a bit of a nightmare. But on the prison side, we've set things up on a separate server for security reasons. But the nice thing about that is they are able to agree to and enforce similar rules. So that one's a little bit easier to manage.
Would you say it's more locked down?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. It's locked down in many ways. So this quote comes directly from the CDE. Our state library helps these prison libraries. So on the CDE Department of Education website, everyone deserves a great library, especially those who face significant barriers to service. And when we started doing these migrations, I visited some of these libraries and got to see some of the environment, try to learn some of the workflows, but it's just really interesting to see how genuinely appreciative, no matter what, whether it's a minimum security or the highest level of security, how appreciative those patrons are to have some form of entertainment or knowledge or whatever they're doing. In some cases, they check out the heaviest books possible and use them as weights, and not a typical use of material, but still something that they value. So we have 23 branches. There's also a mental health library that fits more in with the way we have the prison library set up than it would on our other setup with AspenCat. And then we migrated everything spring of 2022. So this is a picture of one of the facilities. This is the gate. This is the area I was supposed to enter in. On the other side, there is the minimum security version of the Buena Vista prison. And that's the gate I went to, and I walked up. They opened one gate. I kept on walking. They opened another gate and another gate. I looked around. I was like, I'm getting pretty far in here, and I don't. This doesn't feel right. So I did an about face, a pivot, so to speak. Started to walk back and hope that the nice person that opened the gates for me would open the gates again and let me out and figure out where I was going. So that was a little nerve-wracking because in general, they don't. Fortunately, in the minimum side, they were able. Whatever was going on with that, he just opened those gates right back up, and I was out and figured out where I was supposed to go. But all right, let's talk about some of the details about some of the challenges. So there really is no ILS that's designed for a prison. We have ILSs that are more geared toward academic or school, certainly public libraries, but that product does not exist. And so one of the things about using an open source solution for this is hopefully we can develop Koha into something that still works for all of your libraries, works for all the other libraries that I support, but can also be a destination that actually provides what these libraries need, which is unique and different, and you're not going to find out there. So the staff end up doing all these crazy workarounds that take a lot of time, and they're not, and these are understaffed places to begin with. So any efficiencies we can find them, so they don't have to just like live with spending all hours of extra time accomplishing a simple task, is something we want to do. The security restrictions are different from facility to facility, so there's different workflows that are impacted by that. And then development, like I mentioned earlier, the idea is using Koha and Aspen Discovery give us that opportunity to actually find long-term solutions for these libraries. So one of the challenges, one of the big challenges we faced initially is the patrons of, or the residents, as this particular group calls who's in these prisons, they have to move cells, facilities, and move in and out of medical and protective custody statuses on a daily basis. And what was happening before is to find out if the patron was actually where they said where the ILS would say they were, they would have to go to another system and double check. And then at some point, maybe hopefully update that. So what we set up was a daily FTP of all the patrons. And in the lower right hand corner here, you can see an example, a screenshot of a report I get daily that tells me that this is actually working, and that 16 people on this particular day were added to the system, which is kind of a weird report to get every morning, telling you how many people were incarcerated that particular the day before. But you need to know that that report is working, because it allows so much savings of time for the staff, where they actually have a reliable way of knowing that the people they're trying to get materials to are actually where the system says they are. So and then we move anybody in a medical or protective custody into kind of like an anonymous branch we've set up, so that way no one can see that, because a lot of the workers, there are definitely paid staff, but a lot of the workers are the clerks are all residents themselves, and that information could be used for not so good purposes. So we've also changed the using jQuery. We've changed the prison address language so it matches the information that the terminology that's familiar to the staff. So we've done that in every way we can find it. Another issue is heightened security requirements. They wanted to get enhanced password security options. So we did a new development to force password expiration. So that way they're able to use their own passwords, but be responsible for their own passwords. Now, I will say the big trick is getting people to just not submit tickets and say, it didn't work, just reset my password for me, or turn off the expiration. And we go, no, we need to actually find a solution. This is in here for a reason. So with patron privacy, we've had to take away the ability to enable a reading history, things like that. Some of those things you just can't have. We've initiated IP restrictions to allow to make it so you can't use the catalog unless you are in the facility or you're one of the staff that work on it. And then we've also did a development to limit the ability to change branches, which would allow a clerk to then switch a branch to another branch, and then they could see that full roster of who was at that particular facility. So we want to keep that from happening. Other issues are, I mentioned that the clerks are also residents, so we definitely have them have a unique account that allows us to track through reports like who actually did what thing. Pretty important for the accountability there. In most cases, not a problem, but sometimes there's some abuse of these positions, so we need to be able to find out when that does happen. We use a plugin to batch modify permissions for that. That way things are consistent and we don't with what those permissions are, and we can pretty quickly, because there's a lot of turnover in these clerk positions, so we can pretty quickly create those permissions for them instead of just clicking through each thing and then trying to remember which is what. That's been a huge help. We also make sure that we delete those clerks as soon as we get that reported, so then they would have no way of accessing even if they're in another facility or something like that. One thing that we did a lot of work, and certainly the prison itself did a lot of the tech people at the prison did a lot of testing, but we did miss something, and that was on Aspen. We had the ability to make lists, which is a pretty standard thing, but there was a free text option in the description. And lo and behold, because these are people with a lot of time and in many cases very clever, they were able to send, this is before we did the IP restrictions for the OPAC, they were able to send messages out if they could get the login information. So they would write a message in the description for the list. On the other end, somebody on the outside would be able to log in and see that and then respond. And so we saw a report of them, and most of them were love letters and things like that. But definitely the concern there is contraband. So arranging that. So that had to get shut down, and Aspen the Aspen team promptly responded, and we now have it set down so it's a drop down menu and not a not free text there. But because we messed up, the people that at the prison have not allowed us to turn it back on until they test it, and they're not going to test it for who knows how long. So you don't want to mess up with these things because they don't get they're busy with lots of tech stuff, so the library kind of ranks low on their priority list. So a few other things that we've looked at is not showing cannot show home library of items. I actually don't even remember what that was, so we'll move on. Cataloging is inconsistent. That is definitely the case. These, prior to moving into Koha, they were using all the same system, but they were separated. There were 23 different systems that weren't on the same system, weren't talking to each other. And so the cataloging we received was highly irregular and not consistent. So that's been a bit of an issue. I think it was mentioned in another presentation how you can match and things like that, but if the cataloging is really bad, you don't get a lot of matches, and you just have a ton of bad records to go through that. And then in addition, staff have not a whole lot of time or experience to catalog. So trying to create a simple way for them to do that is one of our challenges. So what we do with that is staff we use Z3950. We pay for Sky River, which is like a competitor to OCLC's database of records, and then they can quickly pull something in that's a quality record. So that makes it so the training is training more on that than trying to train all on cataloging. I've remembered what that first part was. So we cannot show the home locations of libraries where things are. Why, you might ask, is because and this is again through experience prior to AspenCat, but we were informed this is an issue. If they know exactly where a book is, then that's another way that messages can be sent, because they can request a specific copy. So that's another thing that we have to make that so it's not obvious where any books are coming from when they're going to request it. They also don't need to know, because they cannot just go, oh, okay, well, it's at the other branch. Doesn't, can't just go get over there and pick it up. That's not an option. So Aspen Discovery, this is another thing for Christopher's question earlier. One of the things we love about it is when you have a mess of records on the back and record grouping, and this is a bit of an example of a Koha search versus an Aspen search. It brings these like titles together. And so when you have a lot of individual copies, even if those individual copies should be on one record, or if not, even if they're different editions, it pulls them into a much cleaner look. So if you have lots and lots of bibs, this kind of makes it so it's a lot easier for patrons to find and not as messy. Okay, another issue, and this came up in the previous, there was a lot in that the vocal presentation that spoke to me, but the high staff turnover is definitely an issue. Working in a prison isn't for everyone, and people burn out pretty quickly on it. So a few things we've been able to do: set up self-checkout at one library that has yet to be staffed. So it's a lot easier for them to get those materials out. We've created a lot of videos, and those have been loaded on an internal prison network that kind of show how things are doing. We're going to have to rework those because Koha looks different now, and some things are in different spots. So John has created a lot of guides using Tango, which is a quick, if you haven't used that, it's a pretty quick way to make instructions, save you some time there. And then we always offer individual Zoom trainings as there are new staff that come in. They kind of don't give them all the permissions that's like cataloging right off the bat. So we usually portion that out over a few sessions to try to get them up to speed. And then we have done larger group trainings in the past, and we might again, depending. Few customizations we've done on the Aspen side. Custom browse categories for popular collections. Another great thing that is offered in Aspen, where you can really pare down to a particular need, and that can be branch to branch. So if something's more of interest in one branch than another, those don't have to match exactly the same. We've used Web Builder to link out to important information they need, forms they may need to download, things like that. So at the bottom of that bottom screenshot kind of shows that everyone that needs to fill out a user agreement to use the libraries, so they can get that agreement from here. That gets signed, and then it actually gets uploaded into their patron file in Koha. I mentioned earlier, different facilities have different levels of security. The high security facilities, nobody actually comes into the library. They're not allowed, so everything is done by delivery, and you can't just wheel in a laptop into the cell. Even if you could, they wouldn't have internet access, so kind of makes we have a very super complicated delivery report that includes a lot of parameters and as much formatting as we can do. So when that's printed out, that it has all the information that is needed for the librarian that's going through the cell to cell and trying to figure out what patrons have out, what they want, things like that. There is no email, so that creates a bit of a problem. So a couple of the developments we've been working on, printing the entire catalog, because again, anybody in that facility will never have access to Aspen. So they have to have it printed, and they have to have it printed in different formats. So by subject as well as by author, things like that. So we've got that along. Well, most of that's done. There's still some work to be done there. We also have to print those notices because no email. So I was delighted when Lucas had an example of some way to print notices that I saw. So I already had a ticket in before his presentation was done, and assigned it. So we could talk about that, because that's a huge need. Because right now, the libraries have been doing running them off a report daily and doing a mail merge thing, and they're a little tired of going that route. So finding another way to do that is going to be fantastic. We have played around with the serials module a bit. It's not quite doing what we need, so we've kind of backed off that. So it's possible if we want to pursue using serials again and the serials module again, that we may need some development to get a few of those kinks worked out. So a few upcoming projects that we're going to do is that right now, even though they have the ability to do so, we haven't really done this yet, and that would be turning on resource sharing, which is really important, that they can share all those materials branch to branch. Eventually, the goal will be to do a floating collection. So it'll be interesting to see. We're going to learn a lot about how all that's going to work, and rebalancing collections and things like that. I haven't supported something like that before, so that'll be an interesting project. And then we are going to integrate with the statewide interlibrary loan system, which is again, it works pretty well. The plugin that we use, and it pulls in most of the stuff, so it mirrors most of the things you would do when you fill a hold normally. Stuff shows up in the holds queue, or if you're bringing something in, it will automatically create a record, a hold, and an item, which is really nice. But there's also a few quirks with the way the system works as well. So that's kind of a rundown of what we've been doing, but be happy to take any questions you have. Over.
Hi, Kim from K&L Gates. I have a question about how resource sharing is going to work, and in terms of what is allowed in prisons, and how we would try to head that off, like when they request something, and if it's just it's already not allowed in, if that's going to be restricted.
Yeah, I think different prisons have very different rules. I know from talking to some other states that they're a bit more restrictive than Colorado is. The staff that work, excuse me, for the state library, have worked pretty hard to try to reverse that and make it so materials can flow more freely and it's less restrictive, but so I think Colorado is a little bit more open to bringing in those things, but there are definitely, I know for sure, some states where a lot of things would not be an option, either because of the content or because of the type of material, like a hardback or something like that, would not be allowed. So fortunately, that's a hurdle we don't have to deal with as much in Colorado.
Avery from Clams. With you showed it early on, your report of like how many you inmates each day. Is that because there's like an automated process to create an account for each person they get booked? Yeah, so I don't know if anybody's ever done like a patron upload themselves, but you can get patron information. If it's all formatted correctly and the columns are all good, then you can just upload it. And what Bywater is able to do is if you can deliver it to an FTP, Bywater can automatically grab whatever that new file is daily and then automatically do the upload. So we've tried that. We've done that before with like schools and stuff like that. So that way they don't ever have to go and create a new account. But this was kind of using that application in an even more meaningful way because those changes are much more frequent than you would get in any other environment. Thank you.
Besides physical materials, at the website or the Aspen website, but do they have access to like databases and things like that as well through their patron cards?
That's a good question. I don't know how much they put into databases. I know that we aren't. My assumption is that not a lot, because otherwise we would be using Aspen to make them as discoverable as possible. So I don't think they have a lot of that, but I don't know the reason why that is. It might be a security thing, like it's just too hard to lock that down. Any software that is used, particularly that is connected to the internet, has to be very thoroughly vetted, or else it won't be allowed.
The next question is, can I get movies or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when one of the prisons I visited, there was somebody watching. I believe it was Firefly, just on a portable DVD. Just in the library, and the thing about that was in the women's prison, which is a lower security, that particular one, and you go in there, and other than the fact that it looks like a box of like concrete, and the windows are you can't open, it feels and functions like a library. Those clerks, a lot of them have been there for a long time, and they have a lot of love and care for the library, just like any other library you would go to. So it was really interesting just to see how normal it seemed. And then you go to the high security thing where the library looks like a normal library, except for no patrons ever go in there. So there's some interesting variety there.
Right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.